Very good. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for March 8th, 2021. A couple of things I'd like to thank the administration for, opening the count we have in council chambers and making this possible inside. I think it's a good thing that we're getting back on track over and through this, so we appreciate that. I thank all the council members that are here. I think this is just showing that we're all ready to get back into council chambers and where we feel the most comfortable sometimes. And finally, I'd like to thank the IT department, Mr. Henderson, who's done a phenomenal job, and their team over and through just, making this all possible, even tonight's historic where we're doing both virtual and in council chamber. So thank you to everyone who's really helped out in this part. It's been moving forward. So first item on the agenda is the approval of the regular finance meeting minutes for February 22nd, 2021. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 2, we've considered the matter of delinquent public utility charges that have been approved by the Elyria Utilities Resolution Board, a resolution approving the attached list of delinquent inactive utility accounts to be submitted for collection by the placing items on the properties and directing to the council clerk to certify said list to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Can I get a motion to get on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Ms. Connor.
Ms. Connor, make sure that you unmute your cell phone.
Okay, I am sorry. Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, there is a list of service addresses of accounts that have been finalized, and we have not received payment on those in the amount of $22,009.85.
So this is typical that we're kind of sending all this information over to the county auditor's office, standard procedures. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Tolet has the committee reports. He'll be passing them down as we move forward. Item number 3, we've considered the matter of Income Tax Board of Review and ordinance authorizing the appointment of the Income Tax Board of Review for set forth in Chapter 192.21 of Elyria Codified Ordinances, number 2011-115. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had a taxpayer approach our office who had with taxes withheld in error from back to 2010, and our tax ordinance only allows for the finance director, who's the tax authority, to refund 3 prior years. And the next step for this individual would be to approach the Board of Tax Review that we're asking for the mayor and council to appoint.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, our city ordinance sets forth that this is a 3-person board. 2 appointments come from council, 1 comes from the mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other further comments or discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 4, we've considered the matter of the Elyria Employee Hospitalization Plan Committee. In order to authorizing the codification of the Elyria Hospitalization Plan Committee, the committee currently exists but is not defined in the city's codified ordinance. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Davis,
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Director Firestein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to members of the committee, this is in front of you as we've been going through some of the old policies and procedures through the city. The Employee Hospitalization Plan Committee is one that has come up, and not being able to point to procedures or protocol and how it's conducted or who is appointed. In working with the law director's office, we wanted to put this in front of you. That way we established it. That way, if people come and go from the city, there's always a point to refer back to, and making sure that we follow the goals and the rules that are outlined in the ordinance. So I appreciate your consideration of this, and happy to try to answer any questions you may have on this.
Director Deere, do you want to make any more comments in regards to that?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, as Director Firestein recounted, this committee has existed for quite some time. There are references to it in our ordinances. However, there is no specific legislation that actually sets forth who sits on the committee, what is actually addressed by the committee. The most, I would say, elaborate definition and explanation for the committees actually appear in our collective bargaining agreements, and therefore this is very much a housekeeping measure, but an important one.
Very good, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 5, we consider the matter of an agreement between the City of Elyria and North Ridgeville for a second extension to the waiver of the minimum charges for water service sold to North Ridgeville in order to authorize the mayor to enter into said agreement. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Director Firestein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to members of the committee, this is in front of you again. I know the committee and council passed a first extension a few weeks ago. Right after that discussion, that vote, we had another meeting with the city of North Ridgeville, and we are currently working through a modeling system of our model, of our model and their model, to determine how best to provide the required pressure for the system, as well as a few other, troubleshooting items on their system and our system, making sure that we can continue working with them. We are very eager to continue working with them. This extension will allow us to work through August, work through those troubleshooting items, and possibly agree to a brand new contract, which of course will be brought in front of committee as well as council to consider going forward in a number of years, continue supplying them water. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Are there any questions regarding Mr. Tolet?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what is the time frame of this extension?
This extension will last through August, the end of August. I believe it's August 31st of this year. We believe that should give us enough time to establish goals to solve those troubleshooting items and to continue working with the city of North Ridgeville, as well as our contractor who's working on our modeling system. There's some questions to PSI, and we're working on those and hoping to address those sooner rather than later. I know the city of North Ridgeville would like to have solved those yesterday, but this extension gives us a little bit more breathing room and allows us to focus a little bit more on that than being worried about the extension.
Thank you. And one more question, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if that's okay. Doesn't the Center Ridge Road construction project play a part in this as well?
Mainly for.
Through the chair, yes, that was a big part of the reason why they weren't meeting their minimum requirements. In addition, through conversation with them, we also found, that's what kind of raised the concern of the PSI, and that's what we're working on that as well. So it's kind of mainly the Center Ridge construction project, and then in addition, the pressure, and we're trying to determine where that pressure is going and how to alleviate that problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Firestein, this is Council President Stewart. So is there a timeline on when this project will be completed for Center Ridge Road in particular? Has that been discussed?
Through the chair, I do not have that answer right now. I know that they are constantly working to try to repair that. I know they have a few more valves to work on for that project, but we are discussing with our contractor as well as the City of North Ridgeville to determine both Center Ridge as well as the pressure concerns that they have in order to agree to a new contract. So hopefully the new contract will help iron out a lot of this. But to answer your question, I don't have a set date on that timeline. I apologize.
No. Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 6. We've considered the matter of a traveling water screen at the Elyria water pumping plant, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Evoquo Water Technologies for the repair of the traveling water screen at the water pumping plant. This cost of the project is $61,423.90. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So second.
Moved by Ms. Davis, second by Mr. Tolet. Mr. Jacobs.
Through the chair, let me explain real quick what the water screen is. There's 2 pipes, a 42-inch diameter and 24, to bring water into the plant. The water then goes into 2 giant raw water wells. And the raw water traveling screen sits 20 foot down on the bottom of the well and goes up 4 foot. And there's screening on it that continuously rotates. And that screens any debris or anything out of the water before it hits our pumps to pump it into the plant. The screen in question is close to or a little over 50 years old, but has been maintained properly over the years. A few years ago, we put a brand new screen in the second well. Every year, Evoqua comes out and does maintenance and repairs on both screens. Last winter when they came out, this screen has some major repairs that need to be done in the next year or 2. And we'd like to be proactive and get the stuff done before anything breaks down and we have a problem in a plant.
Sure.
So that's where we're at. They will come out in the fall when they do the annual inspection. It's a 4 to 5 day process. They'll be working 12-hour days. They bring divers with them to do the underwater part, so we don't have to take part of the plant down.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Jacob? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So when they pull that old one out, is that something that you can save to have a backup in case there's an emergency? And if not, what do you do when you get rid of it? Is there a scrap metal, or do they buy them back, or? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair, we're not putting a new one in, we're just repairing the one in service. The one we pulled out a few years ago was like 80 years old. It literally fell apart. And I think it was in the contract that the company scrapped it out.
Very good. Any other questions? Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. Chair, will this affect services to the residents at all during this 4-day period?
Through the chair, no, it won't, because we still have the other well that'll be 100% in service. And this well, even though the screen won't be operating, we can still get water through it, so it won't affect services or anything.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Item number 7, we've considered the matter of Recreational Trails Program Grant. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for said grant through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The said grant requires a minimum 20% match by the city. The said trail is part of the Parks Master Plan recommendation. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Baird.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Director Flanders.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So we're seeking to apply for the West Park Trail through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Recreational Trail Program. This trail, we've already applied for a grant in 2020. So we're hoping to just maximize dollars, see if other opportunities may be appropriate for this trail endeavor. I sent a document earlier today that kind of phased out the trail for you all. So on the document that you should have, we're looking at phase 1, the pink trail portions on the document that you have. This grant does have a 20% minimum match requirement. The total estimated cost for that portion of the project is about $203,000. The city's estimated match, then it's an error from the sheet, so it's going to be actually 53,289,000 would be the city's match. I do want to note that we do have another proposal grant that we should hopefully be hearing about soon. If we are awarded that grant, then this proposal would be withdrawn, but we are, again, just eager to see that trail funded at West Park. And this is just another opportunity we see in which that could happen.
Okay, is there any other questions for Ms. Flanders in regards to Ms. Mitchell? Oh, Ms. Deary?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would just recommend to the committee that this would be passed on an emergency due to the program deadline being March 15th of this month.
Does the motion concur?
The motion concurs.
Does the second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other, Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I, for one, am very excited to see a trail going at West Park. I've been talking to Ms. Reardon and the mayor, and I'm extremely excited for this. One thing that I've asked for, and I've discussed it with Mrs. Davis, is we would like to see benches along the trail, and I, for one, would be willing to pay for a bench to go in memory of my husband, and I'm sure we could do some fundraising to get those done. So I'm excited, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Good.
Good idea.
Very good. Is there any other discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. One we're all waiting for. All right, item number 8. We've considered the matter of the permanent appropriations for the year 2021, in ordinance authorizing the permanent appropriations of the city of Elyria for the year 2021. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved, Chair.
Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Finance Director Plesky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I gave my presentation at the last Finance Committee meeting. Since then, there's just a handful of changes that we made, and I'll go through them right now. In the 2016 0.50% income tax fund, also known as Issue 6, an agreement came across my desk for fencing around the Elyria Police Department parking lot. I believe that money was appropriated last year, but they never got around to doing it. So the agreement came across my desk and realized that it was not included in the capital list for issue 6. So we need to add $120,977 to capital outlay in the capital needs department of that fund for that fencing. In the general fund parks and recreation department, the mayor has requested an additional $9,000 be added to the 1099 services contract line item. In the summer general fund summer camps, the mayor requested a $12,000 increase to the hourly part-time account and $1,974 in the related fringe benefits accounts, and that's for additional part-time help in the summer camp department of general fund. And the final one, in order to, after making those changes to the general fund, we had to lower the miscellaneous general government and the general fund by $18,474 to get the general fund balance under the amount or equal to the amount available to appropriate. So those are the only changes since the presentation that I made 2 weeks ago at that finance committee meeting.
Okay. With that, Mayor Whitfield, if you want to explain those recent adjustments there, and then we've talked a little bit over the weekend, and then just before council about the parks and where that's at.
Yeah, so thank you, Council President. And so I've prepared a little bit of a higher level overview. I'll try to get through this as fast as I can. But in this budget, you'll see this is the overall budget, the overall city budget. I'll take it serious that, a part of my job as mayor, I've been chartered to present a budget to you. And I'm fortunate to be able to work with John and Ted to make sure this was right. And that it was a balanced budget. So I appreciate all the help throughout these and the time we spent on this. So in this budget, you'll see the priorities of capacity building, economic development, and quality of life. It calls for increasing staff capacity to meet the growing needs in the city, including also investing in our residents, investing in downtown, Midway, our seniors, youth, and our operations. In 2021, we also, in addition to reevaluating our zoning, we'll also need to be reevaluating our organizational structure to make sure we're increasing communication and collaboration within the city, and also maximize the utilization of technology. The building department recently went through a process similar to this with Harvard. We're a part of this Harvard initiative, and so they recently went through this process of evaluating how our operations work and came up with ways to streamline the work. We want to continue to do that as we grow, and also make sure we're hiring the appropriate staff to meet the need. That includes, we're looking at a zoning administrator to improve our zoning process, as well as our overall program at the city of Elyria. Once this budget is approved, we'll be posting positions over the next month. We're trying to pull together a job fair to try to attract the top candidates for the open positions, both seasonal and full-time. We also have some room in the budget also for housing and residential inspectors. We've heard, there's been a number of challenges within the community in terms of inspections, and we really want to make sure that we're doing our part to enforce code in the city. We've also included another IT position as we're relying more on technology. That's in the budget as well. We have the budget for HRs. We continue to try to meet those needs. This year was one of those years where we had some HR challenges we had to deal with. But also you'll see in the budget around economic development, as you previously approved, the TIF work and other work that needs to be done throughout the city, including work that may need to be done downtown or at Midway Mall. I would really like to see us try to stand up some sort of workforce development initiative this year as folks are looking for work. We're thankful to City Council for passing last year the Skill City Initiative, and that'll be rolling out. That's in this budget as well. And then finally, if you watched the State of the City address, we talked about the Ely Life Project, which we hope will be an economic driver as we improve the quality of life here in the city. We heard loud and clear from our business community that we need to increase and promote the quality of life opportunities, not only for their employees, but for their families. So in the parks in particular, you'll see the funding request is for the staff level at the 2019. We're trying to rebuild the department smart and sustainable while being safe. We want our parks programs and offerings to be much more inclusive, diverse, and beyond sports. We're planning right now for 22 of the program offerings in comparison, I believe, to the 23 from 2019, or 25 from 2019, with 17 of those being previous programs. And we're starting off with 5 new, and we hope to expand to have a lot more new programs, which is why we asked for the increase in summer camps. If we're able to gain some momentum, we're hoping to be able to expand the summer camp offerings for our young people here in the city, and that's a resource to be able to pay for additional staff. We received a $10,000 grant from Nordson Corporation for our summer camp, so that'll help as well. Some of the other increase around the 1099 is really so that we can offer more adult-based classes within our rec program, in particular fitness. That's the F in the Ely life. We want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for our adults to be able to, get fit and, for like me, lose some of this quarantine 15. The budget also calls for a full season of swimming, summer camps, and ice rink. Our goal is to utilize the numbers from prior years and still try to expand on the programming by doing things smarter as well as utilizing community partners. Lastly, you'll see in the issue 6, in terms of parks, the South Park Trail Phase 2 being done. Also the West Park Trail, in case we don't get these grants, that we would still be able to move forward with that. A mobile movie screen so that we can start to do movies in the park. That was something we heard loud and clear from our community that they desired. The North Park splash pad. So I know I got some questions about this. Why a splash pad at North Park? Well, one thing that our Pat Hoagland, who's doing the consulting for us around our master plan, has shared that they're recommending the city really look at a larger aquatic centralized pool and aquatic center. And so we want to make sure every neighborhood still has access to some sort of aquatic. So that's the purpose for that. And then last but not least, we heard loud and clear the city wants a dog park. So the plan is to put that dog park in at Hilltop Park. So those are some of the kind of high-level stuff in the budget, and look forward to answering any questions.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. President. I don't understand. First thing, thank you. And your presentation that you did at the college was outstanding. And I am going to personally, before I ask the question, reach out with an olive branch. I came across in your response probably a little too gruff, and but parks are near and dear to everyone's heart. And so to ask my question, at North, we have a wonderful pool that I believe is very well utilized. I don't understand the need for a splash pad there as well. Could you get into more depth in that and how it relates to potentially later on for an aquatic center?
Yeah, so for sure. So through you, Chair. So the thought around that, again, through the consultation of Pat Hoagland and going through this master plan piece, the cost to operate the 2 pools, one, the North Pool, and I think Director Reardon can probably speak to the condition of North Pool better than I can, but it's going to require a massive overhaul sometime soon. It's really struggling in terms of the maintenance requirements for it. So as we look at where would this centralized pool be, well, we know North Park isn't centralized, so we know it's probably not going to be revamping that pool there. So one thought was, okay, if we close the pool now and build the splash pad, then the community is going to go without nothing for a year. But if we build the splash pad while the pool's there, once that decision is made around here's where the new pool is going to be, it'll be automatic. The splash pad will already be there, and there won't be this kind of gap in service in terms of having some aquatic offering in that side of town. So, you know, it's trying to meet a current need while planning for the future.
Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. President. This Central Aquatic Center, do you have plans or do you have more detailed plans on that so that we understand the whole master with pools?
Yeah, so the initial goal and plan was to go through some of the facilitated process and kind of look at where does it make sense within the city. This has been talked about before, so there's already some stuff on record that we've looked at, but it's already been written about, so I might as well talk about it. That, you know, Midway Mall is right now being considered as a location potentially for us to have a partnership with a healthcare provider and also have indoor aquatics as well as potentially outdoor aquatics at that location. So it's been talked about publicly, so I might as well just go ahead and disclose. They were meeting there today, looking at the facility or looking at how it's been designed in other communities, and what we would have to bring that to you all before anything got pulled, but that's the conversation.
And then my last question, through you, Mr. President, is is the pool, and this might be for Carrie also, is the pool in good enough shape so that we can make it through another season, so that and this is a hypothetical now, this question, is tabling the splash pad for right now on this year's budget until we get through this summer, find out what our stimulus money is going to be, because it's going to get signed off on. We might have additional monies to pour into the entire park system potentially. And I'm by no means am I poo-pooing the splash pad right now, but from a financial standpoint, maybe just temper it on hold until we see what comes with both the mall, stimulus money, the rescue plan, I should say, those type things. Thank you.
So, Mayor, if you want to comment on that, and if Director Reardon wants to kind of give maybe a update on the pool and where that's at, but if you want to comment to that.
Sure. So I definitely, from my understanding, and Director Reardon will be able to speak to it as well. I believe, of course, this season, we believe it can last another season for this season. Director Reardon would have to speak to if it's more than this season before we need to do massive repairs.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Sorry. So from my understanding, the pool was turned on last year. Obviously, nobody was in it, but from my understanding, it was turned on, so everything flowed through there, if you will, mechanically, chlorine, all those things. So, you know, each year it's a crapshoot. These are old pools, but the expectation is, yes, it will work this year. It will turn on, you know, it will function. We always have a few mechanical things that we have to fix at each pool, you know, every year. 3 years ago now, I believe 2018, we put in from issue 6, I want to say about 25 to 30,000 for cosmetics. So they went down, I believe, 12 inches from the top of the pool. They redid all of that, repainted it, did all that. Now, mechanically, it's been quite a few years since any significant money has been put into that pool. So as the mayor stated, I mean, we're looking at probably a new filter, which the last time I priced it, I think, was 18, and that was about, in 2018, and it was about $20,000. So mechanically, yes, in the next few years, definitely. I mean, we don't ever know when things are gonna break, but we know that we have aging equipment, you know, at both pools, but specifically, you know, at North. I'm sorry, any other questions, let me know. Did I miss?
Mr. Tolet.
The location of the splash pad, would that be in Little League area? And if so, would we have to break a contract with Little League to do this?
So thank you, through you, Chair. Those are some ongoing discussions that we've had. We've had a few different locations that we've talked about as staff. That was one of them. Nothing has been decided yet, but that was a possibility just based on there being outdoor restrooms already there. The lack of the Little League utilizing the facility, even before COVID, but that was one of the options that was discussed. Nothing, you know, has been decided yet at this time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Sierra?
Through you, as far as Little League North, to the best of my understanding, that is no longer in effect. It is now Elyria Little League. It used to be that they were all chartered separately, and now it is Elyria Little League, so I don't know that contract would still be standing.
Yeah.
Know the answer to that?
Well, Director Deary, would you have any information that you could shed on that with us?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have looked at the lease, and we have raised some concerns. We don't have a final assessment on it, but we do believe that there are some concerns there. If the city were to move forward, we certainly suggested that we reach out to Little League, since Little League Elyria did absorb all of the regional, if you will, Little Leagues.
Yeah, and obviously that's what's being talked about as far as the discussions go and the history that was over at Little League North. Ms. Reardon, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I did want to add, it's not going to take up all 4 fields out there. I just wanted to be, you know what I mean, that a splash pad is not going to take out all 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 4, sorry. But yes, the discussion was to take one of those fields, the one closest to the pavilion, since the pavilion's already there, maybe do some upgrading to that pavilion. But yeah, just so we're clear, we're not taking out all 4 of the baseball fields. I mean, that would be a lot of space for a splash pad, but.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I concur with Mr. Tollett that we should table this for right now. I think an aquatic center is an awesome idea. I think the mall is an awesome location. However, I think spending money for a splash pad, not knowing where the location of the aquatic center, will the citizens agree to pay for an aquatic center, and how much it's going to cost, is putting the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, however that goes.
We know what you're saying.
Something like that. So, but I'm not poo-pooing the idea. I think it's an aquatic center is an awesome idea. I'm all for that. I just think we need to investigate more, have more discussions, and we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. So, thank you.
And then those conversations were had with limited on Saturday with the mayor and maybe what his plans and partnerships and encouraging those partnerships down the line. So I think those are opportunities that will present themselves here in the near future. Any other questions? Ms. Davis.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. With this aquatic center, and you said that there's a possibility it could be at the mall. There's a possibility with the health center also involved in it. So is that like going to be a partnership with the health center for this aquatic center, so we not out of pocket so much money?
Yes, so through you, Chair. So, yes, that's exactly right. The way these work in other communities, when you have that healthcare partner as a part of it, it helps to offset some of the costs because they're using it for occupational therapy. They're using it for their patients. The best example, that actually went on tour today, is in Amherst, the Healthplex in Amherst, where you have the Mercy Health that's occupying the top floor, using the facility for their patients, and then the bottom floor is operated by, in that case, the Metro Parks. But, you know, in other models, the YMCA is operating it, and they run it. In other communities, I think the hospital is running it, in Avon, they're running one. So there's a lot of different models. You know, that's not in the budget this year in terms of looking at that. But we're in those discussions and conversations and would love, you know, you ought to be a part of them as well.
Any other questions in regards to that, Mr. Tollett?
Have you explored partnerships with the high schools for swim teams as well, so that you have predetermined commitments for swim teams? Because I know it both as a recent former swim team dad, I know the different centers went out and attracted several high schools through the community, and the rates that they paid, I know covered all chlorine costs and labor fees, none of the infrastructure, but the high school, their fees covered the majority of those costs. So it's something we can dig into.
Yep, so through you, Chair, yes, so we welcome those schools who are looking for a location that may be more affordable, maybe better, that wants one to build to suit, for them to reach out to the city and let us know their interest so that we can make that a part of the model.
Very good. Mr. Serra?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So with the aquatic center aside, because we don't know what the future is going to bring with that, going back to the pools being as old as they are, I think it's a good idea to put the splash pad there now so that, you know, a year from now or maybe 2 years from now, by the time this splash pad is done, if that pool is not repairable, what are the kids in 7th Ward going to do?
And through you, Chair, that's the logic behind it, Councilman Sarah, is that once that trigger is pulled, when we say, hey, this pool is just too much to put more into, then we'd be in a community without any sort of aquatic opportunity. So having this here, that would already be taken care of.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sarah, for those comments. We may come back to the pools. A question in regards to the inspections through the building department, or through, you had mentioned adding more people for the inspections, and that was so, I guess Mr. Brubaker might be answering this. I know it was kind of run out of community development, and that, is that kind of your transformation in regards to that, Mayor, or is that, how is that, just to confirm?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that, and then Director Brubaker can speak to the detail, but I definitely think that's part of the work we need to do, is kind of really look at how we're structured in terms of where things come out of, what office they come out of. But Director Brubaker can speak to the detail.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mr. President. The Building Department and Community Development Department already work very closely together. In regards to your question, we have an inspector right now in the Building Department that is in the process of studying to take his residential inspector's test. We know that we have about 4 new subdivisions that are about ready to blast off, if you will, in the city, and we're going to need that additional help in the residential inspection part of that. You already see K-Hove is just going gangbusters out on the southeast side of town. You have a new development going in over off Indian Hollow. You have a new development going in on Middle Avenue. You have a new development going in on the far west side, including one that's going on right now. So the idea is we did build into the budget to, if this particular inspector doesn't in fact pass his state test by the end of the month, we will bid that job and he will move into that role. And then we will replace that individual within the building department through a bid process for the code enforcement. In the past, if you remember, over the last number of years, we've had 3 code enforcement people that have been partially paid out of CDBG block grant money, as well as the general fund. When we had the issue with the pandemic and we moved some folks out of there, the idea is to have one official code enforcement officer there, and to not utilize the CDBG money or general fund dollars and use that for additional help within the residential commercial side. The reason I can confidently say that, running the building department for the last 10 years, is that the inspectors that we have in the building department right now have the ability and want the ability and can and will do code enforcement. We didn't have that in the past. We had folks that are no longer with us that just quite honestly did not want to do code enforcement. These folks that are in there now are willing and want to take that on. So we have the capacity to meet the need of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Director, Safety Director. These guys that go, the inspectors right now, they go and they get another designation so they can do more inspections for the city. So they're more valuable to the city. I know we have a real tough time with competing with neighboring communities on paying our inspectors good money. Are they paying for their own paperwork and schooling to pass these tests? And after they pass the test, are they getting rewarded by some form of a bonus? Because that makes them more valuable, because they can do more portions of the job, makes us, it works for us, and then it keeps them here so that we're not trying to constantly be looking for people because they're going to other cities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Oswald. The inspectors have the ability on city time to study for their test when appropriate. If they have to travel to take a class, we do pay for that class. As far as a bonus or a stipend, there are some stipends within the collective bargaining agreement that does pay certain stipends for certain licenses. I can tell you that is something that is on the agenda to discuss when we get into the new contract.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions in regards to the budget? Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. To the mayor, I know that we had a master plan done for the parks. Can you share that with us? What is your vision for the parks? Because we had the master plan done. I don't think we've seen it.
Yeah, so it's not complete, but no, thank you. So the first, we released the first part of that during the town hall we did 2 weeks ago, but I can share with you the PowerPoint on that. Some of the things that stood out were the aquatic center, of course, came up as the top thing that people felt they wanted. The second was a dog park. The third was just aquatics in general. The other piece of feedback that was loud, and that feedback was the reason people didn't participate in the parks. The main reason was because they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't know what program offerings were there. And so, that's why we're hoping, with Ren Flanders taking on this more communications role, she's been working with the Parks Department about how do we really promote more and more what's going on, which kind of goes to this whole Ely Life concept that I shared of how do we promote just the quality of life opportunities within the city that we have. We already have so much good stuff.
Sure.
But our folks don't take advantage of it enough. And sometimes because they aren't aware, sometimes it's just our perception of what we have. But we just built 2 new trails in the past 2 years. Those are things that people need to be taking advantage of, these other trails. So, that's one of the reasons why we asked for an increase in the budget in terms of operating and maintenance on the issue 6 economic development, so we can do a better job advertising the quality of life opportunities here in the city.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, if I may, so I disagree with Mr. Sarah that we should do the splash pad now. I think we should table it. And I am more than willing to take some of that money to pay for the benches at West Park. I had to. You knew I would.
There's always an angle by Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes, Mr. Baird.
Yeah, I think since a aquatic center and a dog park came up, why don't we have a swimming dog park? That'd be, I think people would love to come out and watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this has been, the budget in itself is very fluid, as we know. And, the mayor had spoke about it, I think, at last council meeting, all the departments who worked hard to put their budgets together. And the finance director and his team, Mr. Farrell, they've, put this budget together where they feel it puts us in a position. It's fluid. It changes all the time based on, our incomes and levels that it come in, and we have to make changes. And so with that, so I would agree. I mean, in regards to at this particular time, with the splash pad, I think there would be those conversations here real soon, just to see where that master plan is updated, so that we can kind of really wrap our arms around what the ultimate goal is. And then if Director Reardon can kind of maybe supply us with those recent comments that she's had and where maybe East is at, and, the direction that we want to see, that the parks and the plans. But is on the website yet? Is that either through Ms. Flanders or through the mayor or Ms. Reardon? Are those the programs out yet, or is that?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, that's the information's out there. It's a lot of noise in the ecosystem. Some of that noise is just dealing with the day-to-day news of what's coming up. And then some of it is about what we're putting out as a city. And that's, why we've been trying to really push, hey, let's talk about what we have and push what we do have. So that's the stories that are getting out there. But I think we have a solid plan on getting the communications together, and, this whole idea of active branding. And in regards to the splash pad piece, that decision isn't made right now. We would have to come back to you all and say, so if the money's there, we still got to come back to you and say, do you agree and do you want this? So that isn't decided tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tillett.
One is a comment and one is a question, and this is for Chief Whiteley, and I didn't mean to. Saturday, I went into the parking lot at the police station to look at how fencing would be done. And I sat in the parking lot, which is in very rough shape, so I'm glad that we'll be getting that done. I sat for 5 minutes, and people who were at the observation deck, very nice, courteous family, but I sat and watched them as they walked over and looked in the cruisers. So, number one, yes, there's very little separation between the public and your parking lot. So number one, the fence is absolutely needed. My question, though, I'm going to jump to a different area, and this could affect the mayor also, is we talked about body cams coming up. Is the IT person that we're talking about bringing on also going to administrate that body cam program at the same time? Is that part of the need for that IT person?
So I'll speak to that and let Chief get into more of the details. So when it comes to body cams, the Chief and I have been in conversation. I'm a part of Ohio Mayor's Alliance with a number of mayors who are now exploring this. I think Chief and I share a similar philosophy that this year we want to focus on training with the plan to focus on a body cam rollout or something like that for next year.
Okay.
But for this year to really focus on training. And I think if in a lot of different departments, the way we're structured, which is why I think we need to revisit that this year, it's a little bit of communications that's involved in that. And if it was in this city, it's communications involved, it's IT involved, it's police involved. The way we're structured, there'd be a lot of hands to try to work on this. But just my initial reaction would be that new person probably wouldn't be. We got some pretty strong tech folks here, and that new person would help relieve the Corys of the world so that they can focus on things like this versus the new one. But I'll let Chief. I just gave you more work too, huh, Corey? I'm sorry. But I said we help you. Help with work, though. You got help coming, then work.
Chief?
The police department is always for making sure Corey has a lot of work to do. First, the fencing is very much needed. There's no way of keeping anybody out of the parking lot. We have in the past, it's been quite a while. We had somebody come through our parking lot in the past and cut 42 tires. So, I mean, even though that's been a while, it's a very good chance of it happening again because there's nothing to stop anybody at any time. And we are trying to keep the issue, and probably for the city, it's even more of an issue, is when people are walking through the back lots and cars are backing out of spots, and nobody's allowed to be walking back there. There's signs posted on both entrances, but they do. What kind of liability does the city take on when a cruiser's backing up and somebody walks in their path? So there's a couple of reasons why we need the fence, and they're all good ones. And it definitely long overdue. The parking lot should have been repaired 10 years ago, and it just never seemed to have any money to do it. So I, for one, am very happy that they're going to be redoing that. So your second question towards me was about what?
Second question was in regards to body cams and how that was progressing, but I think the mayor covered that.
He did, and we have met and discussed it, and I do think we're on the same page with that.
Awesome. Thank you. And last thing, on the fence, will you have an automatic opener for cars? Okay. I thought about that one.
Yeah, that would not be good if waiting there for a fence to open.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that was just asked or not in regards to the parking lot. Is that getting done this year? Is that a part of this budget?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there any other regard? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President, I just want to let you know, I've been one that's been wanting to come in council chambers. I do not like the Zoom, and I can say that there was some great conversation tonight, and I think this is what I think I've been missing, and everybody's been chiming in, and we're really working together, and I think if we keep doing this, we can start solving some of these tough problems. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Any other questions regarding the budget, regarding that? So I guess through Mr. Pileski, Mr. Farrell, there has been conversations in regards to the exhibit that's presented to us tonight as far as with the splash pad and those dedicated dollars. Does that need to change, or is that something that this particular time, or what's the approach with that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess that would entirely be up to the committee and council. If you don't plan on going forward with it, I would say that we should probably remove it from the appropriation and remove it from the capital list.
Okay. Can I have someone from finance make a...
So the money that has been earmarked for that would go unappropriated, and if revenues come in as anticipated, then the money will be there whenever comes time to do whatever you want to do with it.
Very good. Thank you. So at that time, I need to have a motion to amend that, to remove that line item from at this particular time.
I would make a motion to amend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
On the budget, can I get a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Tolet.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bear. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. If there's no further business, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Ms. Davis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
One more.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Great question.